Reggie Jackson says Alex Rodriguez is a very good friend. He also says he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. I'm Tom Voort with Chris Bahr. Our eye on Major League Baseball is brought to you by Sony's new Xperia Ion smartphone. And Chris, were you surprised at all that Reggie Jackson came out? The straw that stirs the drink was stirring the drink a little bit here.
He certainly was. I guess my surprise is that he kind of picked on A-Rod there. Obviously, he's most famous for being a Yankee. A-Rod is currently a Yankee. Jackson still works for the Yankees, so I could see this as, not a distraction, but I think it's odd timing. It's an odd situation where, Jackson's around the team a lot, was just there for the old timers day. And
right.
He's going to have to, go face to face with A-Rod on this. I don't think A-Rod is going to make a big deal about it, but it's kind of an unnecessary source of tension, and I think everybody thinks that, but to come out and say it like that, give him credit for speaking his mind.
Reggie's an interesting guy. I mean, he's a thoughtful guy. He's a very intelligent guy. And although he doesn't seem to seek out, the headlines these days, when you ask him a question, he generally tells you what he thinks.
And this is one of those cases, too, where, what's he supposed to say? Somebody comes up with a question and says, hey, Reggie, what do you think about this? Of course, he's going to answer it. And it's probably one question out of 50 that the reporter asked, but it's the one that's going to grab the headlines.
And so it has. Now, what do you think as far as the issue of performance-enhancing drugs? Some of the guys that have either admitted to using it or have been linked to it, how does baseball get through this issue with respect to the Hall of Fame?
Well, I think it's going to be years before we really know. I think a lot of these guys are going to get in. Obviously next year we're going to have Sosa, Bonds, Clemens on the ballot. I don't see those guys getting in right away, but I think over time this is a situation where the further we get from it, the more people will forgive, and I think the more it'll be put in perspective where all the people that are suspected and are proven to have used it, what about all the people that, never got caught? So I think what you're going to have is some writers are going to say, you know what, most of the hitters maybe were using it, but what about all the pitchers who were throwing harder because they used it too? And I just think in time,
a little more perspective. Basically, we put these guys in purgatory for a while, and then with some perspective, eventually the big names, the guy who leads, whatever you want to say about performance-enhancing drugs, the guy who's hit the most home runs in Major League parks, Major League games is Barry Bonds. The guy's going to be in the Hall of Fame someday.
But I think the one thing Reggie was trying to say here too is the people who are proven to have used it and who admitted, A-Rod admitted it. He said for 3 years I used performance enhancing drugs. I think what his point there is, there's not a question of, did they or didn't they? We know they did on some of these guys. And I think those are the guys he was really trying to target. He even came out in defense of Andy Pettitte and said, I don't think A-Rod should get in, but I might change my mind for Andy Pettitte. I think that was more of a way of saying Pettitte's got a little more character to him and, showed a lot more remorse than A-Rod did.
Right,
so
right.
Even Jackson had a little bit of a, bending his own rule there.
Yeah, there you go. It's an interesting topic and will continue to be so. For Chris Bahr, I'm Tom Voort. Once again, thanks to Sony and their new Xperia Ion smartphone. We'll see you next time.